It's the off season, folks, and you have to get creative when you're hosting a program covering a team that for the third time in 5 years is in the lottery. So, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about long overdue the Golden State Valkyries, the WNBA team that's going to be based here in the San Francisco Bay Area, owned by the Golden State Warriors, Joe Lacob and company. Want to give them their due, and part of that process is bringing the other intern on this program, Caitie Flanagan. She's going to make her debut in terms of an actual segment. She wrote a terrific column highlighting the correlation between Caitlin Clark and Steph and Curry. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Golden State Valkyries. And then, because it's the summer and because I finally have some free time in my hands, I'm going to start bringing some viewers and listeners on the program. I've had individuals reach out to me saying they'd love to jump on. I'm going to start rewarding your support and your interest by bringing folks on this program for a new perspective. And last but not least, Draymond Green. He's been killing it on Inside the NBA, and it leads to a possible depressing topic pertaining to the NBA's coverage because we got a new media rights deal just around the corner, and that affects your viewing. That affects how you consume the NBA. So let's get into it. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. I hope that's super easy. It's a 7-letter word, DOGWILD. You can follow the program on Threads as well at Locked On Warriors. So Draymond Green has been sitting in with the Inside the NBA crew. First of all, to me, it's just my opinion, but I believe this strongly, that a huge part of the NBA's popularity, its growth, stems from the incredible coverage that TNT has provided for decades. And unfortunately, there's a lot of rumors out there right now, and the speculation is that the media rights deals are already signed and that they're not going to make any announcements until after the postseason. And supposedly, I'm not saying this is fact, but there are some credible people saying that this is true, which is that Warner, the parent company of TNT, is losing out on their NBA rights because they got outbid. Media entities know that if you have NBA rights, you have a huge audience and the potential for growth is huge. But unfortunately, TNT is likely going to be bumped from being a partner with the NBA. Now, what does that mean? That means no more Inside the NBA on TNT. That could mean no more Chuck, Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, Shaquille O'Neal. NBA TV could be a casualty of this. And so if you're a fan of the coverage that they provide, and to a greater extent what NBA TV provides, this is a bummer because supposedly NBC and their parent company is Comcast, one of the biggest corporations on this planet. Supposedly NBC is who is outbidding Warner for those NBA rights. I don't know who else is in the mix. I have no details. Again, this is just speculative. But the sourcing on this is pretty sound. And what I want to say here real fast is because we've been watching Draymond on Inside the NBA for the last few nights, he's killing it. He clearly has a very bright future in broadcasting, especially talking about basketball. I'm really sad to see decades of tremendous content produced by TNT going poof. And I don't know what to expect from NBC. NBC, that infamous theme song was produced by them all those decades ago. They used to be one of the main networks covering the NBA. But that was a long time ago. I have no idea what to expect. Regardless, the whole point of this diatribe is to say, I hope NBC brings all those people over and doesn't just try to forge their own path with new people, because we've seen what ESPN does with the NBA. Their coverage, in my opinion, is abysmal. And when you compare TNT and ESPN with their NBA coverage, it's like night and day. You have one side that brings humor, that brings levity, that brings genuineness. Did I pronounce that right? They bring transparency, right? You see everything going on behind the scenes with Chuck, and the whole crew there, and Shaq, and all the frivolities. And I don't want to lose that, but I'm bummed that we might. So, regardless of what happens, NBC, my plea to you is this: please do the right thing and hire everyone at TNT and bring them over to NBC. Do not make money an issue in this case. Focus on your consumers, please. Us, the folks who actually religiously watch NBA basketball. We like TNT's coverage. I'm sorry for speaking on anyone's behalf who does not agree with me, but I'm a little concerned about that. And I also want to give Draymond his due. Phenomenal work. All right, so coming up next, I got some guests on this program. I got intern Caitie. She's going to talk about the Golden State Valkyries and Caitlin Clark's correlation with Steph and Curry. And then Steve Fong is going to join the program. He reached out. He's a viewer. He's a listener. So let's get their perspectives on the show. Let's give women's basketball their due and their love after we give some love to our sponsors. And those are... First up on the agenda, eBay Motors. All about taking care of your vehicle. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, we're dedicating today's episode to women's basketball. The Golden State Valkyries, the new WNBA expansion team, with the same ownership group that owns the Golden State Warriors. They'll be playing their games at Chase Center, based in Oakland, so there'll be some roots in the East Bay. And as I've mentioned before, this program these past few months has been incredibly lucky enough to have not one but two interns. You've seen intern Carl. You've briefly seen intern Caitie, but she's getting a whole segment here because she wrote a column for the student publication The Questonian in San Luis Obispo, writing about Caitlin Clark and the similarities between her and Stephen Curry. She's a burgeoning superstar in this game. Caitie, how are you doing? And tell the viewers about your column. What did it entail? What was it about? And good to see you.
Hey everyone. So I'm Caitie Flanagan. I've been interning with Cyrus now for the past semester, and like he said, I wrote a column on up and coming Caitlin Clark. She's big in the media, she's big in basketball, and she deserves what she's bringing the attention to. Um, do you want to go ahead?
From your experience, what makes Caitlin Clark so special?
I think there's a lot. One, it's her talent. She's changing up the game, and two, she brings a personality to basketball that it's something new. We haven't seen it. There's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to women in basketball, and I think Caitlin Clark is putting in work to break those stereotypes.
Do you mind expanding on that? What kind of stereotypes do you feel like women in basketball have to deal with, unfortunately?
I mean, women in general, women in basketball, you're told to sit there, be silent, be pretty. And I think Caitlin, she gets a little rough on the court. She likes to play with the crowd, and you see her personality shine instead of just sitting back and doing what she's told, you know?
Absolutely. And I don't know, did you get a chance to see her opening press conference with the Indiana Fever? There's some columnists for the Indianapolis Star. I think that's a publication, the major newspaper in Indianapolis, and they had some columnists. I forgot his name, but he had this really awkward, uncomfortable exchange with Caitlin Clark. Did you get a chance to watch that at all and see it? And what were your thoughts on it if you did?
Yeah, I did see that. And like that's exactly what I mean with like those stereotypes and just kind of how women are treated in the aspect of sports is he's sitting there asking for her attention and like a thing that she does with her family. And
The heart, right? It's like
yeah,
I can't even do it with my hands, but it's something like that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, he's sitting there asking for a gesture that she holds personal to her family and asking for it. And it's just it was out of pocket. It was out of pocket for sure.
And you know, one thing that I detest in the media, and unfortunately is prevalent everywhere, is ego, right? Like at least from my perspective, if you're a media member, that doesn't make you the star of the story. That your job is to cover the story. And I feel like what happened there is a perfect example of a media member, in this case, a columnist who undoubtedly has a huge ego. I don't think he's engaging with Caitlin like that. If he didn't think of himself as being a special human being in the process, you're just a person like all of us. Did you sense that as well? Anything you want to add on before we move on from the topic of that weird press conference exchange that Caitlin was unfortunately, I would say, a victim of? I mean, it was weird. It was bizarre. It was awkward.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was weird. I hope that it humbled him a little bit and made him take a step back and realize it's not about him. It's not his story. It's Caitlin's. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And what do you expect from Caitlin in the WNBA? Like, do you think the pressure? Do you think there are unfair expectations? I mean, people, again, she attracts an incredible amount of attention. She's already being labeled as a superstar in the WNBA, despite the fact she's a rookie. I mean, she's just started playing. Is there unfair pressure on her, or do you think this is par for course, given how big of a superstar she was in college?
I mean, I hope for her that she's going to rise to the occasion, and that's just going to be something that she strives for with all this pressure. Definitely, it's intense with her getting picked up by the Indiana Fever, being the number one pick. But I think that, like I said, I think she will rise to the occasion. It's just definitely going to be a process.
How would you played college athletics? You're a soccer player for Cuesta College, and I don't know if you're going to continue that at Cal Poly where you're transferring to, but regardless, you have experience as a college athlete. You know what, at least some of what goes into it. Do you envy Caitlin? Do you feel sorry for her? Do you have no opinions on the amount of attention that she's getting? Like, is that something that you would welcome yourself? Like, would you ever want to be a superstar, or do you look at the amount of attention, the limelight on Caitlin, and do you think to yourself, hell no? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I would say it's definitely a mixture of both, but like it's a lot of pressure, and I don't know. I don't know if that's something that I would like. I don't think I would, honestly. Yeah.
And then what about the correlation between, and this was a lot of what you wrote about in your column. And again, if you go to questonian.com, you can see it there, or you can follow Caitie on Instagram. Caitie, tell the audience what your handle is, because I'm just seeing a C and a dot, and to tell people how people can find you on social media so they can track down your story?
Okay. Yeah. So my social media is c.ai and then 4 T's. And then, yeah, my stories, it's posted up on the Questonian. And I kind of just use Instagram as the main social media, and Questonian is where the stories are at. So definitely check it out.
And what is the correlation from your research between Steph and Caitlin Clark? Like, is it even fair to compare the two? And I'm seeing that comparison because I think a lot of people feel the same when they see the impact that Caitlin Clark has as you're watching her. Like, she's exciting. She makes these like bombs, like deep threes that the only other player that we've seen that can make those with consistency where it feels automatic is Stephen Curry, widely considered the greatest shooter ever. What from your research, what is the correlation there between the two, if any?
I mean, there's definitely correlation. I think it's both a compliment because Steph Curry, everyone wants to be compared to him. He's a great player. But at the same time, she's her own person. She has her own story. So I don't know. It's a mixture of both for sure. But I did see that Caitlin Clark beat out Steph Curry's record of 3-pointers in a single season. He ended with 163 pointers or 162 3-pointers in his 2007-2008 season, and Clark just ended hers with 201 3-pointers. So I think, yes, it's a compliment, but she's writing her own story.
Love it. I love it. And those numbers are referring to college numbers, correct? Like Steph's last year at Davidson and then Caitlin Clark's last year. That's incredible. She has drawn so much attention to the WNBA women's basketball, justifiably so, in my humble opinion. She's phenomenal. I mean, the term transcendent is thrown around a lot, but I really think it applies to her. Any final thoughts on that? And also, before we go, would love to get your opinion on the San Francisco Bay Area getting a WNBA franchise, the expansion Golden State Valkyries. The color is purple. And again, the Valkyries, elaborate on that. Maybe you could explain better than I can what a Valkyrie even is and your thoughts on the franchise.
So yeah, I mean, the meaning of a Valkyrie is it's unwavering warrior women, and we will see at the start of this season. But it's beginning May 2025. The Warriors bought the Golden State Valkyries. They're going to be playing at the Chase Center, and it's going to be something exciting to see the expansion of the Warriors into the women's national basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah. And hopefully there's a Locked On Valkyries program. That's a great opportunity for this network to expand there as well. But regardless, it's fantastic news. I feel like it's kind of weird to me that the Bay Area has not had a WNBA team. I feel like this would be one of the target regions for having a WNBA franchise. I'm shocked it took this long, but better late than never. I'm glad it's here now. Caitie, again, people can follow you on Instagram at c.i. Is that what it comes out to? C.ai
and then 4 T's.
All right. Oh, it's really more Kate. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Caitie, good luck at Cal Poly. Thanks for being such a fantastic intern this semester. I know you were mostly behind the scenes, but you did phenomenal work. Great job with your column, which expressed, you articulated beautifully the correlation, the comparison between Caitlin Clark and Stephen Curry. And have a great summer. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Let's give some love to one of our many amazing sponsors on this program, BetterHelp. And in this crazy world where we're all dealing with all sorts of stuff that could cause anxiety, that could cause depression, that could just make life a little too difficult, where sometimes we all need help. And BetterHelp is a virtual resource for you that you can literally seek out from the comfort of your home. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba and get on your way to being your best self. And that can sometimes result from the help that you seek with a resource like BetterHelp, where licensed therapists are helping you find the answers you need to make that all important organ, the most important in your body, the brain, feel better so that the rest of your body can feel better in the process. And with BetterHelp, you're saving time, you're saving money from the comfort of your home. You don't have to waste gas money. You don't have to deal with traffic going to an office. You can cycle through therapists until you find the therapist that you want, who will give you the help that you need. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, follow me on Threads at Dog Wild. The program is on Threads at Locked On Warriors. We post all updates there. But right now, look, there are people out there that support this program. I'm never going to be appreciative enough. I'm never going to be grateful enough for the love and support. And I've had people reach out. I've solicited this at times. If you want to come on the program, I'd love to get new perspectives, hear from individuals, again, who support this program. And one of those individuals is Steve Fong. You can follow him on Instagram and Facebook, I believe, at Sinjuro Writer. Steve, you reached out. You're on the program. How the hell are you doing? And what are your thoughts so far? Let's start with this. What are your thoughts on the season that was for the Golden State Warriors? And good to meet you.
It was difficult. I mean, I started off with a little bit of Chris Paul hate, the traditional Golden State hate of Chris Paul, but he was great. But I just feel that they didn't make a lot of good personnel moves. For good or for bad, the team's very loyal to its players. And I think a lot of other teams in the NBA would have made moves, traded people, cut them. And I think the results speak for themselves. I mean, a 10th place in the in a play-in tournament, I mean, it just wasn't great. And I think we can do a lot better.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I am not satisfied with the fact that the Warriors in 3 of the last 5 years have been a lottery team. That just doesn't sit well with me, Steve. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Sorry, I just think with one of the greatest shooters of all time, cannot be emphasized. We need to be more aggressive with the GM management. Again, yes, I think we can get better players.
Well, and before we continue talking about the Warriors, I want to take a step back. I just had intern Caitie on the program. We talked about women's basketball. It's among the many news items covering the NBA and more specifically the Golden State Warriors is the fact that their WNBA franchise, an expansion team that I believe is going to launch next year, they just announced their nickname. They also announced their team colors. They're going to be playing at Chase Center, even though their headquarters are in Oakland, which is kind of weird because that commute sucks. I don't know. I mean, I know they're trying to get representation in Oakland, but it is not an easy commute between Oakland and San Francisco, even though geographically they're just miles apart. That bridge, the Bay Bridge, is a nightmare, and the San Mateo Bridge, that's a massive circumvent. The point is, Valkyries. Some people love it, but when we spoke off the air before we started recording, you did not express that sentiment. So you're not a fan of Valkyries. Expand, please.
Oh, no. I don't really like the name. I don't think it really has any connection with the Bay Area. And, I mean, it's barely a Warriors connection. I mean, it's a female warrior, but, I just think they could have done better. And I personally like the Riveters, the Rosie the Riveter. I think that would have been a great name. However, I do think there's a lot of market research has gone into the name. They're really pushing it hard. And I think there's a disconnect between the fans of the Warriors, of women's sports in the Bay Area, and what they picked.
So, again, this is all subjective. There is no empirical answer to this. Like you said, they undoubtedly picked Valkyries because it's of the Warriors, right? It's a female connotation of the word Warriors. The Golden State Warriors nickname itself originated back when they were in Philadelphia. They were the Philadelphia Warriors. So Warriors doesn't have much of a Bay Area connotation. You mentioned Riveters as a name you would have liked, but I don't even think that has a Bay Area connotation. Maybe I'm mistaken. What would have a Bay Area connotation? You got me thinking, like, the 49ers are a great name. I think that the football team is perfect in that regard. 1849, the Gold Rush, right? Sure. San Jose Sharks, yeah, I could buy that. You have great whites all across the northern and central California coast. Warriors is a weird one. Giants is a weird one. They come the San Francisco Giants.
These are traditional teams from the New York Giants or the
New York Giants, correct?
Warriors.
So what would you have liked is what I'm trying to get at, that you think would have a local connection in terms of a nickname?
Well, first of all, the thing about the Riveters is that in Richmond, Point Richmond, is the Rosie the Riveter Museum. So it's a big event. I mean, my evolution there was this. I was thinking about some of the ethnic groups of the Bay Area, like Central American warriors or Chinese warriors, Japanese warriors. And I just realized it's a patriarchal system, and it's not a good thing. I mean, not that war is a good thing in any way. And then I just realized, well, what about the Riveters? I mean, again, it's a local event, tie-in. There were a lot of women who worked in, during World War II. And I think it's a great thing with that name. Other friends, though, suggested the Sirens. I thought that was a kind of an interesting sea-related sort of name.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just don't think the Valkyries have a strong connection to the Bay. That's really my comment.
That's fair.
And
yeah.
So I got you. And they picked purple and black. I'm like, that's the Sacramento Kings colors. Like
that is. I've heard that complaint. I believe the purple stems from the convergence of blue and gold. I think that makes purple. I've heard someone say that, although I haven't put any thought into that. I feel like that would be more greenish. I don't know. Whatever.
You know how it is. If you have a joke and you got to explain it,
that's fair. That is fair. Steve, we only have you for a few moments, and I don't want to give you the opportunity to use this platform to express how you're feeling about the Golden State Warriors. You mentioned the fact that this previous season was a disappointment. I totally agree with you. Now we're in the offseason. We got some big decisions to make. Klay Thompson is an unrestricted free agent. Chris Paul has a $30 million team option. We've heard Joe Lacob talk about wanting to not repeat as a tax offender because there's punitive damages associated with that. Right now, they're below it. If they don't give Chris Paul that $30 million, they'll certainly stay below the luxury tax, close to $30 million below it. If they don't give Klay Thompson a big extension, you can use those mid-level exceptions, 2 of them, in fact, to get some good pieces, some role pieces. That's in a 1-minute summary what the landscape is for the Warriors. What do you feel in this offseason, man? What do you want? The floor is yours. You only got a few minutes here, man, so express yourself.
I think the biggest thing is if you pay attention to other teams, they don't show the same loyalty as the Warriors management. Now, that's good and that's bad. But, again, players who underachieve, they get traded, they get moved on. Players get moved on for a lot of reasons. And I hate to say this, so does coaches. And we've seen it with like with the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, they're NBA champions, and they fired now 2 coaches in 3 years. But the bottom line is that I think I'm really funny about this because the Warriors are the wealthiest NBA franchise. So I actually personally don't have any sympathy for salary cap issues or taxes. It cuts into profitability, not maybe somewhat of personnel moves, but ultimately it's a bottom line thing, but it's not fan bottom line.
You're absolutely right. So what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, he doesn't seem to give two about repeat
TV
being set, getting into these second aprons, first aprons, all that stuff. And look, the bottom line is I'm totally with you. I have zero sympathy for the financial concerns of billionaires. They're fine. Okay. Like I will never shed a crocodile tear for a billionaire who doesn't want to spend another $5 billion, which for, I don't know what you make in life, but I'm guessing for the layman, it translates to like pennies. So I'm totally with you in that regard. And the only punitive damage for being a repeater so far that I've heard is that in 2032, they're not going to be able to trade a draft pick. Oh no, 8 years from now. The point is, I'm with you. I do hope that decisions are not made for prudent purposes. We're on the same page, brother. So are there any names out there that are attractive? Like, are there any specifics you could provide that you want the Warriors to do this offseason?
No, this is where kind of a failing for me is. I used to be a massive NBA fan, and now I only have time to watch the teams I like. The Warriors are it. I am watching a lot of playoff basketball, but that's a little bit different. And the WNBA. So I really don't know any super players that could be brought in. I just think that, like, changing the chemistry of the current team. And again, I'll just make this point that Joe Montana did not retire as a 49er. I mean, there's no reason why.
Steve, you and I are on the exact same page. I grew up with the 49ers dynasty, and I feel lucky that I was able to study as a child leading into adulthood how to maintain a dynasty, what to do and not to do to sustain excellence over a long term. And that is example A right there. Joe Montana, who reached Stephen Curry level greatness here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And yet, despite that, the team moved on when they had to. Eddie D, and he made it very clear. This is the other point that I think is important, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but when Joe Montana left, Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, their loyalty to the Niners did not get affected. When their careers were over, they were back, man. They're Niners for life. And the same can apply to a Klay Thompson, right? The same can apply to these other. Would you agree with that? And anything you want to add to that?
No, I love Klay Thompson. He's my favorite player by a wide amount. I mean, by the way, I'm Chinese, so I always think it's funny his nickname is China Klay because he's very popular in China.
Yes, he is.
but I mean, Joe Montana lives in downtown San Francisco. I mean,
yes,
he likes him and his wife love San Francisco. He is the number one superstar retired athlete in the Bay Area. So I don't see any reason why it can't continue for Klay, even if he moves on to Orlando. I guess that's the talk about where he's going to go. And then, again, I just think that the Warriors have too many guard forwards, and they just need somebody better. I don't know who it is. I'm just saying the team needs to change.
Well, that's what we got the whole offseason for that. We're still just in the midst of the NBA playoffs right now. It's so early. I'm not used to this, covering the Warriors. Steve, we only got about a minute or so here. Any final thoughts, man? I thank you so much, first of all, for the support. I mean, we would not be engaging here right now if you didn't reach out to me as a viewer, listener of this program. Thank you, man. I can't thank you enough. So with a few minutes remaining, floor is yours. Anything you want to promote, anything you want to, a message you want to get about the Warriors, go ahead, sir.
Well, first of all, I have 2 books out. I'm a detective writer in San Francisco, so find me on Amazon, centurowriter.com. My last book is called Black Bloc. It's about political protest in San Francisco. It's fictional, sort of. And then, I'm enjoying the WNBA. I think that's great. I'm hoping to go to Las Vegas to the Aces game. I will make this quick story. Caitlin Clark's game is in May 25th. Cheapest ticket is $200. The most expensive is $2,000. I'm not going to that game. They're a little bit cheaper some of the other games, and that's some of the ones that I'll be attending. But I think it's great, and I think San Francisco can definitely, the Bay Area will really love having a WNBA team.
Absolutely. It's a long time coming. I'm honestly surprised. I mentioned this with the previous guest a moment ago. I'm honestly shocked that it took this long. It's bizarre to me that the WNBA did not have a franchise for all this time. Better late than never. And going back to San Francisco and Joe Montana really quickly, I used to own a surf shop on Union Street. I called it more of a surf boutique. Joe Montana came in one day. It was like late night. The shop would stay open until about 7 or 8. And he came in about 15 minutes before closing. I obviously kept the place open for him. I guess his wife was shopping down the street, Jennifer. And if you're a Bay Area native, you know Jen, right? I mean, she is the first lady of Bay Area sports, although Aisha is definitely coming into her own there. But regardless, I just want to say Joe was the classiest. It wasn't the first time I met him. I've been working in sports media a long time, so our paths crossed before. But he is in that setting where I spent like half an hour with him, just BSing, talking about our personal lives. He is the most down-to-earth, grounded, humble, genuinely nice dude you can meet. And yeah, you sounds like you're rich in San Francisco history as well. So Joe, his impact. and he's as good as it comes, man. He really is. And does it blow you away that Stephen Curry? I never thought anyone would reach Joe's stature here in the Bay Area. Yet here is Stephen Curry. Did you ever imagine seeing someone equal Joe, or maybe even surpass him?
I think Steph surpasses him, believe it or not. I mean, Steph is the number one shooter of all time. I'll debate that with anybody. And it's just amazing. I'll tell you real quickly, when he came back in 2020, I mean, he was injured. No one cared about games because what was coming next. And Steph Curry embarrassed everybody on the court. I was like, holy heck, he is amazing. And I mean, it's such a unimportant game, but he was just so much better than other NBA athletes. And I'm just like, and he still has it. He is number one. Does.
You're right. Surround the man, get him some help. Steve, thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. Thank you so much. And I'll be doing this all summer, just bringing folks on the program just to, bring a new perspective to the show. There's never enough, in my humble opinion. Steve, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to everyone. We're done. We're out of here. We'll be back at this soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.